everyone, it's Emily bringing you another Grass River microclass. Greetings from just outside the Grass River Center on this gorgeous day. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about snakes, as you can probably guess. This is Ruby. She lives in the Grass River Center. She's an albino California king snake. So she's not native to the area, but somebody donated her to us and we said, sure, we'll take care of her. So, like I said, Ruby is not native to northern Michigan, but we do have, give or take, about 11 species of snakes that are native to the area. And we see them quite often at Grass River. And you know, I can't talk about snakes without saying that they really get a bad rep. And you know, I think one of the reasons, maybe the main reason for that, is because, you know, humans evolved in East Africa where there are a lot of venomous snakes. And so they were, you know, a danger to our ancestors way back when. And so we evolved that natural fear of them. But in northern Michigan, we only have one venomous snake, the eastern Massasauga, that we very, very rarely see. And if you think about it, it's a species of rattlesnake, and it's actually really considerate, I would say, that rattlesnakes warn you, you know, by shaking their tail, that they're there and that they're not happy that you're there. So quite a considerate snake. But yeah, I mean, besides the fact that they're a native part and a natural part of our ecosystems here, there are several reasons to actually be a fan of snakes and to celebrate them. And maybe one of the main ones is that they're a great source of natural organic pest control. Snakes eat a lot of rodents, but a lot of other animals too, like amphibians and birds and even other snakes. That's why king snakes are called king snakes, is because they eat other snakes quite often. But yeah, they're a natural form of pest control, and you know, not only is that great because we don't want mice overrunning our houses and our offices and our other buildings, but because rodents, especially like things like white-footed mice, are often carriers of disease. They're the main reservoir of the bacteria that is responsible for Lyme disease. Ticks actually pick it up from feeding on occasionally birds, but most often white-footed mice or other small rodents or rodent-like animals like shrews. So yeah, snakes are great for that reason. So I'm going to put Ruby back inside and we're going to go on a little adventure here and talk about what other kinds of snakes we often see at Grass River. So one snake that we occasionally get here at Grass River, not super often, but often enough to merit mentioning, is the eastern hognose snake. And I'm sitting in a spot right now where I saw one last summer. And even though, you know, their color can be pretty variable, I immediately knew what it was because it had a puffed out neck and head, almost like a cobra, you know, and it was hissing at me and doing this pretty elaborate threat display. And hognoses are known for that, for mimicking cobras, even though they're totally harmless, totally non-venomous. They mimic venomous snakes to try and get their potential predators to retreat. And if that doesn't work, if the whole threat display doesn't work, hognoses are known for rolling over and playing dead. They'll literally roll over on their backs and have their mouths open with their tongues hanging out, kind of like a possum-like play dead display to try and see if that will make the predator go away. So if you don't see those crazy behaviors though, other great ways to identify hognose snakes are by their upturned snout, which is where their common name comes from. And that snout is upturned because they use it to dig and burrow in sandy soils to go after their favorite prey, which are toads. And they have some pretty cool adaptations that allow them to eat toads. They are totally immune to toxins that toads have in their bodies, so that doesn't bother them at all. And they also have these pretty large rear fangs that they can puncture toads that inflate themselves, which toads will sometimes do to deter predators from swallowing them. So they can basically pop the toad and it deflates, and it's much easier for the snake to swallow it then, because obviously snakes always swallow their prey whole. Yeah, so that's the hognose snake. All right, so now we're right outside the center, and this is a spot where I often see garter snakes basking, especially early in the morning. Last week I saw 3 on my way from the little parking lot to the center door, so this is a favorite spot of theirs. And garter snakes are, you know, super common, live in a variety of habitats, easy to identify from their 3 longitudinal stripes that go down their body. And they look similar to a ribbon snake, but ribbon snakes are, as their name suggests, much thinner. So, garter snakes, we have the eastern garter snake here, but there are lots and lots of subspecies of garter snakes. And one thing that's really interesting about garter snakes is when they emerge in the spring, they form what are called mating balls, and it's usually 1, sometimes 2 females with lots of males, and it's just like this like writhing, slithering ball of snakes. And what's crazy is that, and this has been most well studied in the red-sided garter snake subspecies in Manitoba, but what's crazy is that the males will actually secrete female pheromones in these mating balls. And at first, scientists were really puzzled. Why would they secrete female pheromones? What's the purpose of that? Why would they want to draw other males to them? Then they realized that there's 2 main hypotheses for why they do this. The first is that the males might just be drawing females to them, drawing other males to them in order to warm themselves up with the body heat of other males, because remember, snakes are ectothermic, so they're cold-blooded, they can't produce their own heat, but they really need to be warmed up and able to in order to be able to move around. And mating takes place, you know, right when the snakes emerge from their hibernacula in the spring, when it's pretty cold still, especially in northern parts of their range. So they might just be drawing males to them to help themselves heat up. The other hypothesis is that they might be drawing the other males to them and kind of like away from the female, and then they quickly dart back to the female and mate with her. But yeah, either way, pretty interesting fact for a snake that is, you know, very common and very, some people might say not very exciting, but there you go. So now I'm on the boardwalk on the Sedge Meadow Trail, and I'm at the first bridge if you are walking the Sedge Meadow Trail clockwise. And this is the spot where we see northern water snakes all the time. And usually we see them, you know, basking in the sun on the boardwalk, and they're dry, and so they appear pretty drab brown. But if you see them when they're swimming in the water, they're actually really beautiful. They have this really distinct banding pattern to them, which is really neat. And you do see them in the water a lot. They're great swimmers. They're water snakes. They've actually been found up to a mile away from shore and up to 10 feet in depth under the water surface. So really good at swimming. And one thing that's cool about this species is that they're a little bit unique in that they're ovoviviparous, which means that they do have eggs like all snakes, but the eggs hatch when they're still inside the female. And so then when the snakes are actually born, they're just baby snakes. There's no eggshell. And that's true of garter snakes as well. They're also ovoviviparous. So we're now back at the center, and the last snake I want to talk to you about is the northern ringneck snake. And these snakes are not often seen at all, partly because they're nocturnal, but also because they're very secretive in general. But they are much more numerous than our scant observations or sightings of them would suggest. I have only seen one once here, but several other naturalists have seen them much more than that. But the one time I saw a northern ringneck snake at Grass River, it was actually inside the center. It was hanging out under the garbage and recycling receptacle. And they often do hang out under things. So instead of directly basking in the sun's heat, they'll hang out under boards or rocks or pieces of bark. and take on the heat of the sun through those objects. So they're really beautiful snakes, super aptly named. They've got that nice yellow collar that goes all the way around the snake in the northern subspecies, which we have here. And they, I said they're nocturnal, and so they prey on other nocturnal species, and they are pretty voracious predators of salamanders in our area, as well as earthworms. So they love those slimy things. So that's all for this Grass River microclass on snakes. I hope you guys have learned something new, and maybe, you know, I've quelled some of your fears that some of you might have about snakes. Again, you know, in northern Michigan, our only venomous snake is an eastern Massasauga. It's a type of rattlesnake, and we have never seen it here at Grass River, though we've tried really hard. They usually exist in wetlands, but they're super secretive and cryptic and very non-aggressive, so there's really nothing to worry about. Snakes are really highly evolved, really specialized creatures that deserve our respect, I think. So that's it. Thanks for hanging with me. Bye, guys.